Hey everybody, how's it going? On today's video, we are going to be talking about The Society of Starry Eyes, a budding scientist in a fantasy world, book 2. This is by A. Caswell, performed by Alexandra Ryan. The audiobook length is 24 hours and 43 minutes, and this is published by Podium Audio. This is the second book of a budding scientist in a fantasy world. And from my first video on this series, we talked about Alice being put into a fantasy world and getting isekai there. So Alice is isekai into this fantasy world. She is a budding scientist in in Earth. She really liked the scientific method and wanted to be a scientist and was really about science. And she applies all that she has learned as a 16-year-old in this new world. And now we're on book 2. Book 2, we find Alice in a new area, the capital of, I think it's capital of Avaria. I could be wrong. I read so many books sometimes that some of the names mess up. But in this audiobook, we find Alice in this capital of this country that she is stuck in as of right now, or isekai into, and she is trying to progress her research, progress getting more power, influence, and maybe even figuring out a way to go home, and also get into a magical academy where she can learn more about magic and just get into she wants to know more and how the system works. And in this next book, she definitely finds out more. Unlike the first book, I feel the first book was just kind of like a settling ground, getting everything ready and kind of building some things up, and more of like a foundation, if you will. Then book 2 is just like you just went over the hill and you're sliding down. You're just like, whoa, there's just a lot more going on in this second book than the first book. And I really enjoyed it and really enjoyed how things changed, picked up, and the development of the character. And also, there's board game nights mentioned like several times in this second book, and I'm like, if you can't see the background of my of this video, me and my wife really like board games, and we get into it a lot. Love board games. So when board game night was mentioned constantly, I was just like, yeah, this is already a better book in this series. And I can't wait for the third. I don't know when that's going to come out, but the ending of this one really was like climactic. You're like, what's gonna happen next? So in all these videos, I like to use this as hopefully something for you to get interested in this series, maybe to save you some time. Maybe you got into the first book and you're thinking, well, do I really want to get into the second book? Sometimes with little RPGs, you can get the first book and kind of be like, okay, I don't know. And hopefully my video on the second book could help you be like, okay, I'm going to commit more into this series. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the pros and cons of the second book in a budding scientist in a fantasy world. So let's get into it. First, let's go with pros. The story moving faster. Like I said, it is just moving a lot quicker than it did in the first book. I feel like things were established and Alice knows more about this world, or a little bit more of how things function. And she just, I don't know, it just feels like it picks up and she can move along faster and she knows things, and we don't have to be kind of spoon-fed, how the story is coming together. The story is together and we are going. That's how it feels like, definitely in the second book of the series. Next, let's move on to, I already talked about it, board game night. There is Alice loves board games, and she starts making her own board games in this series. She has to swap out some things and say, oh, hell, this is, an Avarian game, and this is something I've invented to those that don't know that she is from a different world. So I think some of the board games, Catan was the first one that came through, and I think the next one was, it was Mars. Oh, like I know the game, but it was like Cultivating Mars. I just can't remember the game off the top of my head, but it was just it was awesome to see some of the board games that I know about and some of the hobby ones to be interject in this series. And it was just really cool to see that during the story. So yeah, board game nights to the max. It's like if you like board games, and you've already gotten to the first book, just go into the second book. Next, get off my little pedestal and soapbox of board games. Interesting developments. There's a lot of interesting research projects that Alice develops in, and it seems like they're moving alongside each other. And some come to conclusions, and others are just wondering, developing mysteries. And so it definitely is a lot more interesting in this series. She's not trying to figure out more of like basic things. Some of the things are still kind of basic, but she's working up on what she's already knows and is able to move forward. But yeah, I really love how interesting her research is getting and how she's just articulating and just breaking down everything and all the variables that she has to go through and the tests and the even more research that she is doing, making sure it is ethically moral. That was a big thing in this series because there's again, this is the title of the book, The Society of Starry Eyes. They are people that are just not ethically moral. They will do whatever they can to get the information that they need. And you'll learn more about that at the end of the book, why some of them are doing what they're doing. But it's definitely interesting in the second book on just how everything develops. Next, moving on. Like I said, more experiences, more results, more, kind of just interesting things for Alice to work through. I already talked a little bit about that. And one of the last things that I really enjoyed is how Alice problem solves what she is, whether it's research, whether it's funding, whether it's keeping herself alive. And even this isn't a like more of a combat story, but there is combat within the story. Alice has to keep herself alive. There are people that want her dead. There are people that would capture her for experiments on her. But it's interesting to see how her analytical mind thinks in the cases of when fights break out and she has to keep herself safe and protect others. And it's interesting how she just problem solves these things and just just tackles these obstacles. And I really like Alice's character and how she deals with those obstacles. Let's go ahead and move into the cons. That's all I really had for pros. I really like the story. So if you're someone that has read or listened to the first book and is looking for, confirmation that this story gets interesting, I would say so. But again, take all this with a grain of salt. Do your own research. I will link the Audible link in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and read the author's summary and get the sample that Audible does and get maybe a little taste more of the book 2 and see if you want to dive more into the series. But some of the cons, analytical diving. I think I hit this in the first book. Alice is a very analytical person, and the story is very, stats, how to, attack and overcome these problems. So she does it in a very analytical, scientific way. Science. And so if that's something you're not interested in or you don't like, and if you've read or listened to the first book and that was something that you just didn't really enjoy, then yeah, the second one is not going to be probably something that you'll enjoy. And that's sad because I really enjoy Alice's problem solving and all the stats. I love stats. I don't know why that I like stats so much. Sometimes I'm not a very like mathematical guy and great at science, but it's just interesting to hear it and kind of like just be right there beside the character as they learn and grow, and you can interject here and there. It's like, oh well, if they do that, and then if you catch it and the character or the story starts going in that direction, or says what you were thinking, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm somewhat part of the story. I'm invested. But yeah, and I already talked about this before, but this is like, again, this is a story that's not really combat focused. There are points of combat within this series, and I think they're very interesting. They're sometimes brief, but very interesting. But there's always kind of that looming of danger in this series, but sometimes it just doesn't really happen or occur as much as someone like that would like the series like the Primal Hunter. Those that like the Primal Hunter series would probably not like how spotty combat is in this. But yeah, those are like my cons. Again, I'm a very biased person when it comes to this series. I enjoy it. I can't wait for the third one. For those that have listened or read to the first book and are looking towards the second, I can say that if you enjoyed kind of like the build up and you wanted to see more through the first one, the second one definitely delivers and will have more of kind of a punch, just more of like, okay, let's go, let's do things, let's get some things done and check some things off our task list. And that's definitely what happens during the second book of this series. So yeah, that's what I have on the second book of A Budding Scientist in a Fantasy World, and I really enjoyed it. Again, I'll leave links in the description of this video so you can go check out this audiobook on Audible. Again, that's where I primarily get all my audiobooks. I don't know where you would get yours, but sometimes a lot of the audiobooks I listen to are just Audible like only. But yeah, it's a really great series. I hear you also can. I'm pretty sure it's on Royal Road. I could be wrong. I do apologize if I'm wrong, but it's also on there. So the great thing about lit RPGs is sometimes if you want to read the series, you can do that mostly for free, or if not completely for free. But I am someone that really enjoys listening to audiobooks and listening to just an audio learner, and I can just dig into audiobooks, and that's just where I find myself going with these stories. So book 2 of A Budding Scientist in a Fantasy World. I hope you enjoyed this little of my opinions, enjoyed my opinions on this story, and I hope it helped. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you're currently listening to. I would always love to get into a new series. And I just constantly am finding series that I am like, oh, well, I should get into that. And my wish list in Audible is just growing, growing, and growing. And I love it, but it's just too much. So yeah, if you have something, and also let me know how you're enjoying those that read or listen to this series. Let me know what you're enjoying the most with no spoilers. I'm trying to also be no spoilingness, but yeah, just let me know in the comments of what you enjoyed about this series. So yeah, I'll let y'all go, and until next time, toodles.